Welcome to our email marketing masterclass. Super excited to get started. I'll give everybody a second just to log in, get settled, make sure you can hear and see everything okay. All right, welcome everybody. Great to have you all here. Just feel free to give me a visual thumbs up or say hello in the chat so I know you can see and hear us okay. Thank you, Shannon. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're just going to get started here now in a second as people are logging in. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. We love to know who's here. So if you want to say your name, what company you're here from, or where you are geographically, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. If this is your first masterclass with yours truly, then you should know that we like to make these very interactive. I know that obviously we are in the peak of summer. It's hot in a lot of places, and you guys are busy and maybe looking to get a little busier. So we're going to make this very practical today. Some actionable things that you can do as soon as you sign off of this live training. So get your notepads out and we're going to dive into email marketing. If at any point you have a question or want to share a little experience, feel free to unmute. You can also use the chat. I'll be checking that periodically over to my left here. So definitely welcome all your questions and experience. So today we're going to be talking about how to turn your contact list, your database, into more booked jobs. Email marketing is, I think, one of the most underrated tools when it comes to marketing because it's been around so long. We use it so much. It's not as, shiny and exciting as TikTok or Instagram Reels or any of the other things that you might be doing right now. But email marketing consistently generates sales for companies. And if you're finding that maybe things aren't as busy as it could be, or you want to start getting things in place so that when things slow down in the fall, you're ready, you've got some tactics that you can pull out. This session is really going to be about helping you to be able to generate more jobs without actually needing to spend money on advertising. So this is using the leads, the customers that you have already, reaching out to them so that you can drive more sales for your business. All right, so a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Crystal Hobbs. I'm the owner of Reflective Marketing. I live in Newfoundland, an island on the east coast of Canada. Normally pretty cool, but we're having a nice summer so far. I'm here with my husband and Buddy the dog, who you see in this photo and probably on a lot of social media. I'm a big fan, of course, of helping HVAC businesses grow. We're in our 11th year of business. So all that we're going to share today are the real strategies that we use with our clients to help them get more business. We also run an awesome podcast called Beyond the Tools, which I love because we get to speak to so many of the talented people in this industry. But really, nothing makes me happier than the people that I get to work with every day. Our incredible team. We've got Magdalena, our marketing coordinator, here on the call today. Thanks, Magdalena. And all of the incredible clients that we get to work with every day, just like you. So, what we are talking about today with email marketing, some of the things that we're going to cover here are very simple, very practical things that you can do right now to drum up new business. So, this is an example of a database reactivation campaign that we did with a client recently where, she texted Samantha, our client success manager, was like, holy crap, I just got 9 leads in 15 minutes. These are the types of things that you can accomplish with email campaigns done right. So, not just about keeping your customers informed, reaching out. Well, that's all really nice and good. What this can actually do is bring you very direct, very real results. Another example of a client campaign that we did, this was to let people in their market know that a rebate program was about to end. And just by letting people know that, they did a few 100,000 in sales from a couple of email campaigns to a database that they already had, leads and customers that they had already required. So this is the power of email marketing, and that's what we're going to get into today. So I'd love to hear from all of you. What CRM are you using? Because we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, just to be able to understand how to apply this to the software that you have already. So if you could let us know in the chat there, or, oh, sorry. Thank you, Magdalena. There is a poll. If you can go ahead and click on that, let us know what CRM that you are using. We've got some of the most popular ones there in the trades, of course. There are so many, so I'm sure it's not comprehensive there, but just to get a better feel for where everybody's at. Okay, so you should see that poll pop up on your screen there. All right, and as those answers are coming in here, I'm also curious to hear from all of you. What are some of your top questions about email marketing, or what would you really like to take away from the session today? So feel free to pop that in the chat here. Okay, awesome. All right, perfect. So I'm seeing our responses here. I think I can share this here. So most of our participants live today are using ServiceTitan, so that's awesome. I love ServiceTitan. Good percentage there using House Call Pro and Jobber as well, and our other category. So I do see, okay, someone's using Zoho. All right, awesome. Good. Okay. Thank you guys for being active in the chat. I will keep checking back here with any of your questions. So, someone says they want to learn effective marketing campaigns. Good. You're in the right spot. We'll definitely get into that. Charmaine says, how can we stand out to make sure our emails get opened, not lost in the inbox? Macy says, since HVAC is sort of a one-time buy, what email topics can be done to increase email engagement without annoying the customer after they've bought a system? I love that question. Okay, and Zara says, same question. Sam says, who to target? Okay, amazing. These are all good. So I'm going to come back here. I'm pretty confident we're going to cover all of those just inherently in what we've pulled together for you today, but I'll make sure if you don't get your question answered, please flag it to me at the end. I'll make sure that we dig into that a little more. Okay, and Shannon says best way to automate and be informative to keep in front of the customer. Cool. Okay, good. We're gonna have fun today, okay? It's a jam-packed hour, but we're gonna make it good. So 51% of consumers say that email is the best way for brands, for companies to communicate with them. Now, I think what a lot of you are getting at there as well is that sometimes you're sending emails, it seems to be falling on deaf ears, or people are not reading them, not opening them. So how do you make sure that your emails are getting across? All right, so what we're going to cover today specifically, first, we're going to talk about how to set yourself up for email marketing success. So we're going to talk about making sure you have some of those foundational pieces in place to make sure that your emails are getting delivered, that people are more likely to open and click on them. So that's our first piece here to get you ready to go. Second, we're going to talk about how you can save time and book more jobs with email automations. So we'll talk through some of the key automations that you need to have in place to make sure that you are automatically, without needing to spend a ton of time and effort, you're getting in front of people, you're making things happen by setting something up once. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some smart email tactics for slow periods. So what you can do when you have a focused goal in mind, when you want to get in front of people, whether that's to drive more sales or to simply just inform your customers, keep them engaged, keep top of mind, which I know was a big piece of what a lot of you mentioned here. All right, so all of this is something that's inherent in the HVAC lead driver system, which is our system for how we help our clients to get more leads, further nurture them, turn that into more jobs and sales. Email marketing is a big piece of that. So if, at any point you do want a little bit further help with this on how you can implement this specifically in your business, go ahead and book a free strategy call. We've got a QR code here. You can just take a quick phone shot of. We'll also paste the link in the chat there as well so that you can set that up. All right, so first piece, how to set yourself up for email marketing success. So first of all, thinking about what is your primary goal? What do you actually want to use email marketing for? And I know a number of you already kind of hinted at this, right? Keeping informed, keeping your customers engaged without annoying them, making sure that you are able to stay top of mind. All of these things, and also, of course, increasing your sales. So before we even get to creating a campaign, we want to be able to make sure that your email campaigns are going to reach the right people. So keeping a clean list is really the first place. And this ultimately comes down to how you're using your CRM. So you want to make sure that you are categorizing and tagging customers properly, because that will make it easy for you to go through all the customers in your CRM, be able to filter those and make lists that are specific to the purpose of the particular email that you're going for. So for example, in helping out a customer this week, we were looking at their House Call Pro and we wanted to pull a list of homeowners. So in their House Call Pro account, we set it that, the customer is not a contractor and the customer type is homeowner. But when we generated that list, we noticed that there were a lot of companies that were coming up. So this is an indicator, of course, that you need to go through your CRM and make sure that people are just tagged appropriately with their customer type, that sort of thing. Because if you're reaching out with more of a residential approach, you don't want to be hitting businesses with that. So that's a simple thing that you can do right away to, okay, go into your CRM, pull your customer list. If you try to get homeowners, are you only getting homeowners? If you're trying to do businesses, are you only getting businesses? To make sure that you're able to slice and dice your database the way that you need to. Once you've got a clean list, the next piece that you want to do is make sure that your emails aren't being flagged as spam. Now, I'm going to give you some technical gobbledygook here, but we're going to make it a little more simple. What you should know is that when you are sending email campaigns, one of the factors that goes into whether your email shows up in somebody's inbox or not is making sure that you have the proper records on your domain. So your domain, for example, my website is reflectivemarketing.com. So my domain is reflectivemarketing.com. When I send an email, it comes from Crystal at reflectivemarketing.com. So if I've had issues in the past, if I don't have the right records set up, it is possible because of those things that my emails aren't showing up in somebody's inbox. There are a couple tools that you can do to check that your domain has the necessary records and that your domain is not flagged for spam or any of those things. So one is Google Postmaster tools. The other is a DMARC domain checker, which we'll show you in a second. But having all of that in place will make sure that your domain is protected, your website's protected, and your emails are less likely to go to spam. Okay, so one of the things that you can do there, sorry, I'll come back to that. So this DMARC domain checker, and I got to give a shout out here to Kayla Walters over at Good Cheer Web Design, who has helped us a lot with some of these domain issues with clients. So you can use this DMARC domain checker. We can pop the link for that in the chat as well. But if you just put your domain in there, it will tell you if you have the proper records in place and if there's been any spam issues. And similarly, Postmaster tools from Google, which is a free tool, you just put your domain in there, and then you can monitor if you've had any issues with your emails being reported as spam. So those are two quick free tools that you can use for that. Otherwise, there are, of course, a few fundamental things that you want to make sure that your email is set up to do. So one is having an unsubscribe option. Right now, it's not mandatory to have a one-click unsubscribe, but that is definitely becoming more popular, and it's probably something that will come later on. So making sure you have easy unsubscribe options on your Google. Now, this is inherent with pretty well every CRM, every marketing tool. So as long as you are setting that up properly up front, you're probably covered with the software that you have there. You also want to make sure, of course, that you are only emailing people who have given explicit consent. Now, this will vary by country. So I'm in Canada, things are a little bit different than in the US, but the rules are pretty similar from country to country. For the most part, explicit consent means someone that you have worked with in the last 2 years. So any customers from the last 2 years, you should be game to email those, or anybody who has explicitly signed up. So if they've signed up for your newsletter, if they've entered their name, email, phone number on an ad campaign, on a form on your website, any of those things, they have given consent for you to reach out to them. Really, where most companies would get into trouble is if you were buying lists or pulling them from neighborhood websites or those types of things. So as long as you have gotten the list in a legitimate way, for the most part, you've got that unsubscribe option, you should be pretty safe there. So those are a couple things that you want to make sure you are prepared for when it comes to your list. Okay, and Magdalena's posted those links in chat there as well. Okay, so you've got your list sorted, you've checked your domain, you're good to go there. Now, when it comes to the structure of an email, I want to go through some of the basics that you should be aware of here so that you know how to craft an email that's more likely to get opens, more likely to get clicks, more likely to get responses. So the first piece in an email campaign is your pre-header or preview text. So this is the little line of text that comes after your subject line. So when you open an email on your phone, for example, you'll see the sender, you'll see the subject line, and then you'll see this pre-header or preview text. So this is another space where you've got an opportunity to hook someone to make sure that they're opening your email. So use that to either, again, give a little bit of curiosity, give a little summary of what's going to be in the email that they're about to open. Next is your from name. Now, this seems pretty intuitive, right? But one thing that you may want to consider is whether people know the company or if there's a connection to a particular person at the company. Now, for most of you, it probably will be company first, but if the owner has a personal brand, or if that customer was dealing with a salesperson pretty exclusively, anything like that, you can use both a personal name and a company name. For most of you, you're probably just using company name, but I wanted to give that as an option to think about how you can do things a little bit differently. I will say I have seen kind of the opposite of sometimes getting it from the owner's name, but no one really knows the owner. I've seen that a lot, especially with technology companies. It seems to be more common, which is something that's always kind of struck me. So that's something you want to think about there with what's going to be most recognizable to your email list. Your subject line. So this is something I know that anytime we write an email, it's always really thinking through what the different options are, what might be the best possible subject line. So to give you some ideas, generally, shorter is better. You want to make sure that your email isn't getting cut off, your subject line. So always send yourself a test email, look at it on your phone, on your desktop, and just make sure that it's short enough that it's not trailing off. You can also test this a little bit. Some CRM, some email marketing platforms will allow you to send two different subject lines to see which one performs better. So if you've got that option in your software, that's always a really good place to start. Generally, you want to tease, don't tell. So you want to give a little bit of curiosity. We often find that personalizing can really help. So you can put someone's first name in the subject line, for example. If you've gotten our emails about this webinar, then you've probably seen that. We send one subject or one email that has the subject line, "Are we on for tomorrow?" with your first name. And that almost always gets responses for us. So using a bit of personalization can really help. Experiment with emojis in your subject line. This can depend on your target audience, of course. This may resonate with some demographics, maybe not with others. So that's something that you can experiment with. And lastly, you want to beware of words that could trigger spam filters. So free, financing, some of those things can sometimes run into trouble. Most of the time, there's a ton of different tools. Again, probably some built into your CRM or email marketing tool that will allow you to check whether certain keywords might trigger spam filters. But that's something to be aware of as well. Okay, so a lot of subject line generators are out there as well. ChatGPT, you can use that as a subject line generator to help you to come up with ideas for what your email marketing campaign can be titled. And Active Campaign as well. Magdalena just popped the link there if you'd like to check that out too. They do have a free subject line generator. That's pretty good. And then lastly is your footer content. So this is typically where you get all your contact information, so social media buttons, your website, unsubscribe, making sure, again, that's in your email somewhere to make it easy for somebody to update their preferences or say that they no longer wish to receive their emails, all that sort of stuff. It's also an opportunity where you can remind people how they got subscribed to your list. So again, we want to make sure that when we're sending out emails, we're minimizing the chance that someone's going to mark us as spam, because that can have some detrimental long-term effects if you're continuously getting flagged as spam. And we'll talk about that more as we go. So with all of that in place, you have the foundation to be able to start emailing. So we've got our clean list, we've got our domain protected, we know how to generally set up our email campaigns. Now it's time to look a little bit deeper into the types of emails that we can run. And specifically now we'll talk through email automation. On average, people check their email 15 times a day or every 37 minutes. I think I check mine an embarrassing amount more frequently than that, but people are on their phones and emails. No surprise. So we want to make sure that no matter what's going on in our workday, if it is a super busy time of year, you know that you've got emails that are going out, whether you're sitting down and writing them every day, every week, or it's something that you've set up to happen without you being there. So to give you some thoughts about automating emails in general, think about what are the things that you are consistently sending to customers. Are there questions that you're getting a lot of the time? Are there parts of the process that every time something happens, every time somebody books an appointment, for example, you have to send them something specific? Or every time their membership expires, it's a reminder. Are there things that happen frequently in your workday or your work week that you could set up potentially to go out, so you're not having to do that manually every single time? And then also thinking about what's some advice or information that you can provide that doesn't really get out of date. Okay, so for example, maybe every winter you remind customers how to prepare for the upcoming season. Or, now that we're in summer, maybe you find yourself, you're always telling customers, here's how to troubleshoot your air conditioning. So thinking about those things that you often repeat, that's a good starting point for what to automate. Now, to cover some of the basics here in terms of what you absolutely must have automated to make your lives easier, and again, make sure that you're consistently booking more jobs for your company. So if we think about the homeowner journey, when they first express interest, so somebody fills out a form on your website or on an ad campaign, or they reach out on your Facebook page, or they call, whatever that is, when they first inquire, to when they book an estimate or an in-home appointment, and then to install. So this is simplified. Of course, there's steps in between, steps after, all that sort of thing. But if we just start with those three basic events, what you want to make sure is that you do have automated emails for each of those stages. So when a new lead comes in, you want to have an email sequence that is following up with them automatically, nurturing that lead. So what that might look like, for example, would be something like, "Hi, thanks for filling out the form on our website. Here's the main services that we offer." You could have another email that has some customer testimonials. You could have an email about your financing options or rebate programs, so that there's a series of emails that somebody gets to provide some of that basic information, and more importantly, to encourage them to book the next step. So this is something that we find a lot of our clients don't necessarily have already in their process. Once they get somebody to an estimate, they're sending reminders about the appointment, when they're going to show up, what they need to have ready, all that sort of stuff. This confirmation reminder, pretty straightforward. But oftentimes we find there's not much there for that initial lead, that initial inquiry. Okay. If you get somebody to an estimate, they've had that appointment and they go to install, of course, then you can ask for a review. But if you get estimates that don't end up moving forward, you want to make sure there's an automated touch point, as well as, calling leads up, all that sort of stuff, very important. But on the email side of things, you want to make sure that there's also automated messages going to them to remind them of their estimate. "Hey, did you receive your quote? Do you have any questions about that?" Maybe you've got another email of, "Again, these are our financing options. Here's some ways we can make this more affordable for you," that sort of thing. So if you are starting with email automations, these are really the 4 sequences that you want to make sure you have set up in your CRM. Okay, so Zara asked a great question. What should be the time frames between sending these email reminders? Great question. I would say that, okay, so for example, a week after the lead doesn't respond to the quote. So most of the CRMs do have some defaults there. I would say that, sending it day 1, a reminder a day later, 3 days after that, a week after that. Play around with the frequency a little bit, but oftentimes I find that there's not enough frequency. I would say if you're only doing that a week later and there's nothing else in place, then that's far too long. We know that most homeowners are getting multiple quotes, so you don't want to leave it that it's that much time later. So yeah, Zara, to answer your question, I would default to doing at least day of, a day later, a few days after that, and also knowing that being on the phone, calling those people, nothing's going to be as powerful as that. But at least the email and text campaigns that you have to go along with that is just going to back up your efforts on the phone. So I hope that helps there. Okay, so most CRMs will have this built in. So House Call Pro, for example, does give you that option that, after 7 days or whatever many days that you specify, it gets resent, gets updated in the pipeline, and you can customize those messages. Service time, very similar. There's all of that built in, especially with Marketing Pro. But for example, you can set up a review generation that happens once a job is marked completed. So a lot of these things are standard in your system. Okay, so beyond those basics, your new lead follow-up, your appointment confirmation and reminder, unsold estimates, your review generation. What are other things that you might be sending consistently? Something that you're sending across. Just curious if anything else comes to mind for any of you of, you know what, I send this email all the time. Or this is a common question that I get from customers. Let me know in the chat or feel free to unmute as well. Okay, and also curious if anybody, if there's a piece of that journey that is not something that you have set up currently. Or maybe it's also something that you haven't checked in a while and actually looked at that content to see how that's performing, what the open rates are, if you're getting good responses there. So those are some things to think about. And again, you can look at that seasonally. You can also, for example, there are email sequences that you can set out, for example, if somebody's membership is expiring, if they haven't had a service in over a year, 2 years, you could have that annual reminder. Those are all some things that you can set up so that your email automations are doing the work for you. And you're able to support that with the in-person, on the phone, manual effort that technology can't replicate for you. Okay, awesome. All right, so again, depending on your system, this House Call Pro, you will see email automation, and you can set up the content of that particular email that goes out, and then when that is triggered. So how many days? Is it when a job is completed or some other action? And I don't have ServiceTitan there, but ServiceTitan, especially with the Marketing Pro system, if you've got that, that is incredibly powerful. And I haven't gone deep here on either of those because the CRMs honestly do a great job of getting those things. So make sure you've got those basics covered in terms of the homeowner buying journey. And then look at other things that you tend to repeat in terms of customer information. So give those things some thought. Now, with all of those basics in place, now you want to think about things that happen more so like one-off sort of times or when things get slow, making sure that you've got some tools in your toolbox to be able to drum up more appointments and jobs. So that's what we'll talk through now. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give you here is to make sure your email campaigns are very focused. So don't try to put too many things into one email. Have one key message, one piece of information that you want to get out with each email campaign. So when it comes to these manual email campaigns, email blasts, whatever you want to call them, I think of it in two main categories. So one is your monthly or weekly emails, whatever frequency, but those regular occurring emails that you're sending. And the other is more of a database reactivation. So we'll talk through both. But monthly emails are things that, if you want to keep your customers engaged, if you want to stay top of mind. So one of the things that you can think about, for example, is how to prepare for adverse weather. Macy, for example, I remember, I think it was last year, you guys had this crazy ice storm. So knowing that that's coming, you can send out an email to your customer list of like, hey, here's how to prepare for that. Here's how to deal with your unit, how to make sure that, you're clearing ice away and in a safe way. Or if a heat wave's coming up, this is what you want to do to make sure that your home can stay cool, your air conditioner's not going to break down. Any of that weather related stuff is really, really great to send out over email because you are staying top of mind and you're helping your customers. And if they do run into issues, they're going to know who to call. We have a customer, for example, that every time before a snowstorm, they will send out an email campaign with, this is what to do if you lose power. This is what to do if your machine shuts off, the things that you can do on your own, and then this is when to call us. So it's also helping to keep unnecessary service calls down and to help customers help themselves. Okay, so any of those timely things. Similarly, any urgency, we've done this in a couple different markets where, especially in Canada, there was a national Canada Greener Homes grant, which was this incredible program that was, up to $20,000 back. Now, different provinces, different states as well will have different energy efficiency incentives. I know some places had like a tax credit, for example. So if there's a rebate program, whether that's something that's announced or something that's ending or changing in some way, I know across Canada we've seen a lot of changes with those programs over the last few months. That's something that you can email out to your leads, to your customers to say, hey, like, did you know this is coming up? If you still want to get a new system, now's the time to act because this is going to be going away or this is going to be changing. That single-handedly has helped some of our clients do multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales from just letting people know this information. You might also want to do any sort of new offers, add-ons, and I'll give you some examples of that. So for example, one of our clients, they sell these heat pump snow covers is what they call them. So it's like, yeah, just this little, roof over your heat pump if you live in a snowy place in the winter like I do. So this is something that they sent out to any of their current customers to let them know, like, hey, this is a way to protect your heat pump. We're providing these, in the warmer months, it's going to protect it from the sun, all that sort of thing. Okay, very, very simple. Also, when this client launched new HVAC maintenance programs, they sent that out over email to give people different options. So these types of campaigns, we're not doing anything revolutionary. There's no, giant crazy promotion or anything like that. While those are great things to do, sometimes it's just letting people know the things that you already offer. Okay, so that's your regular emails. Really planning out what you can do monthly can help so that you don't have to think of these things all the time. But, as you look outside or, a heat wave is coming, different things are happening, you can make sure to keep your customers informed. And that will also help to drum up new business for you. Now, if you are more so finding that things are slower than you want them to be, and you really do want to drum up more business for yourselves, doing what we call a database reactivation campaign is extremely powerful. Basically, what we do for that, and this is something we do with all of our clients when they're going through a little bit of a rough period, we will take their database of leads and customers and reach out to them with a very specific campaign. So oftentimes what that looks like is first we want to take the database and segment it a little bit. So an easy way is, okay, let's take all the leads, but exclude people that already had an appointment. So these new leads that didn't get to that next step, we want to email those people and say, hey, you reached out 3 months ago about looking for a new heat pump for your home. Were you still looking for help in saving up to 40% on your energy bills this summer? Okay, so your leads, unsold estimates, similar idea. Even if you have these automations going, you can reach out to people who didn't move forward in the last 30, 60, 90 days. Say, hey, we came by, we gave you guys a quote. What happened with that? And then customers. So again, you could slice and dice that a little bit more if you wanted to do customers who haven't had a service in the last 3 years. Things like that. Once you've got those segmented lists, then you want to tailor the message to each of those groups a little bit differently. And this is something where you can absolutely do a special promotion if you really want to amplify the business that you're getting in that time. So again, sample of what we did with one of our clients is that for new leads, so people that were either unsold estimates or they did express interest but didn't move forward, we reached out to them with an offer that their first payment would be covered by the company. And we did that for a limited time to be able to drive as much business in that period as possible. So on that note, one little trick that we find does really, really well is to specifically ask for people to reply to the email. This way, it's really easy then also to track what results came from a specific email campaign because you will get those replies. And more importantly, it makes it really easy for that customer to respond. There's no big action. They don't have to, fill out a form, or they don't have to call if they're at work. They can simply reply to the email, and then the ball's back in your court to be able to follow up with them. So this is something that has worked really, really well. So this campaign, for example, we sent to about 238 people and we had 12 response. So 12 hot leads that were re-engaged from that email campaign alone. So those are some ideas to make sure that you are consistently reaching out to the leads and customers in your database. Now, beyond sales and replies, there are, of course, a couple other email marketing metrics that you want to be aware of to better understand your results and what good looks like. Okay, so open rate and click rate. So open rate means of the emails that were sent, of the email recipients that got your email in their inbox, what percentage of those people actually opened the email. So generally 22% is what you want to shoot for. I will say that depending on the list, especially if you are segmenting your list a little, if you're reaching out to warmer leads or customers, we often see that as high as like 60%. I would say 40% is probably more of the average, but again, if the list is a little colder, you're probably seeing more around the 20% mark. Click-through rate, so that means they clicked on a link within the email if you're trying to drive them to a page on your website or to online booking or something like that, for example. 3% is an excellent click-through rate. Now, your unsubscribe, generally, you want to keep that at 0.3%. If you're consistently seeing above 2%, generally that indicates an issue. So by that, I mean that if you're getting a ton of unsubscribes and bounces, you're going to run into more long-term problems with your email showing up in people's inbox. So having a high unsubscribe rate and bounce rate can really impact your email deliverability. So something to keep in mind something to keep in mind there. Again, the occasional email at that rate, you're probably fine, but you want to keep it under 1% in general. So those are some guidelines in terms of what to look for with your email campaigns. And personally, I do really like to track how many people reply to an email because it's very direct. You can't dispute it. You know then what's actually working. All right, so with all of that in place, you are ready to go. You've got your domain sorted out, all those good records. You're making sure you're not ending up in spam. You've got your unsubscribe mechanism. You've looked at your list, make sure you're emailing the right people with the right messaging. Then look at your automations. At a very basic level, you want to make sure people get emails when they become a lead, when they book an appointment, if they've gotten an estimate, if that doesn't go through to an install. And then when they do have an installation that they or a service that they are getting prompted to review the company on Google. So those are the 4 automations that you want to have at a base level, and then you can start to expand on that. And then lastly, we covered smart email tactics for slow periods. So we talked about those one-off monthly emails that you can send. And then also your database reactivation. So if things are slow and you want to make sure you're drumming up more appointments and jobs, you can reach out to past leads, past customers, people that haven't moved forward or haven't worked with you in a while. So with all of that in mind, I'd love to get any questions from you guys. Anything else that we can help you there? I am going to run back through your list here just to make sure I addressed everything. Of course, there's so much that we could go through here, and we've only got an hour, but my hope is that with that, you've got some ideas on how you can use email marketing better in your company. Again, if you would like any help with implementing this in your company, if you want to dig into how you can apply this specifically for yourselves, definitely encourage you to book a free strategy call. So we'll leave the link up there for you guys as well. Thank you so much for attending. And again, bring on the questions. We love to hear them. I'm just running back through the list here. Hey, thank you, Zara. I really appreciate all your great questions. Okay, best way to automate, keep in front of the customer. We talked about that. Time frame. Email topics. Okay, I think I covered it all there. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in chat or reach out to me separately after. Happy to help. But otherwise, really appreciate you all being here. Wishing you the best peak season and stay cool out there. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Thank you, Tara. Okay, until next time, we'll see you next month. Ooh, Charmaine's got a quick question. Hit me, Charmaine. Not actually, you did do that on Tuesday at our Muay Thai class, but
Oh, I thought it would be quicker if I unmuted than to try and type the whole thing.
please talk to me.
So I just noticed something new, I think, in House Call Pro that I hadn't noticed before. So in the pipeline, it now has something called smart recommendations. So
Ooh,
yeah, I haven't seen this. So I was wondering if anybody had seen it or tried it. So it says in order to maximize estimate conversions, smart recommendations uses data science informed methodology that includes blah, 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 blah. So I guess maybe it'll like try and optimize when it sends its check-ins and things like that. I don't know if anybody's tried it. I was curious.
Ooh, thank you, Charmaine. Has anybody who's still on here, have you guys tried those smart recommendations in House Call Pro? And you said that was where, Charmaine, in the pipeline?
It's in the pipeline, automations and estimates. And I
Okay.
have not seen it till today, but I'm tempted to just turn it on and see what happens.
Ooh, okay. Sorry, I'm poking around in here now. Do you mind showing me? I'm just curious.
Yeah, can I share my screen? Let me see.
Okay.
So we have, yeah, this guy right here.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll ask around with our clients and stuff as well. I don't think anybody here has anything to say, sadly, but that's a great question. I'd love to dig into that a little bit more.
Sounds good. Yeah, if I may just turn it on.
Yeah. That's always a way to know. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that's it for today. Thank you guys. We do these every month, so be sure to keep an eye out for July. I believe it's July 23rd. Wednesday, July 23rd will be our next one. So keep an eye out for that one, and we'll see you then.